We'll be seeing how to create simple plan. So first I'm creating a typical plan for which I go to file, I say new and I give the plan limits. Say my x dimension are 20, y dimensions are 15 and flow height I'm taking as a 3 meter and this I'm switching off and other data I'm keeping same. I said okay. So I'm creating first slab which is say 5 meter by 5 meter. It automatically gives a number and I can select the grade. And suppose I'm taking thickness as 0.15 meter. So based on density, it work out the sulfate. I'm giving floor finish of 1.5, livelihood of 2. Okay, other load, suppose say waterproofing or something I want to give, I can give here. Just now I'm keeping at 0. So my total load is 7.25. Most important is this one direction of the slab, direction of transfer of the load. So suppose when I say both way, the load will be transferred to all the four beams. If I say cantilever, for this it will transfer to this beam and this beam, and if I click it again, it will be transferred to these two beams. If I want to give cantilever beam, I'll say this. So all the load will be transferred on here. So what it does, it take the total load and divide by length of the load, and that much load will be transferred to the this beam. Similarly, I can give say two or three beams and transfer the loads on those three beams. So just now I'm keeping it both way. I'm saying okay. So my first slab is created. Now for creating second slab, I just have to go to nearer to that corner. I did not go exactly at this point. So I click here and move the mouse like this. And suppose here I'm giving length of 2.5 meter by 2.5 meter. And I said, okay. Next, I'm coming here, creating the same slab. Now I go two corners, so I click on this irregular slab, then click here inside, click right click, and I'm taking it both way. Why I'm taking both way is this: that no matter what, some load will be transferred on this smaller size of beam also. So I'm taking it two way because this is for indicating where the load should be transferred. Then I said okay. So this slab is created. Then I go to this slab, I say copy and say paste. So I'm pasting it here. So it will get attached to the corner. Now I would like to copy the all the slab. So I say slab data, select all, right click, copy, and then I paste and I take near to this place and it will automatically get attached to the corner. So I created number of slabs. Now suppose here I am deleting this slab and again creating a smaller slab. So I click on this icon, click inside, right click, and again I am seeing both way. So this slab is creating. Now I want to create irregular slab. So what I'll do, I'll click on this. Now when I click inside the slab, it will select the nearest corner. Now here I am doing so it creates the nearest corner. Here it creates select nearest corner and then clicking outside. So it is asking me for the Y offset. Suppose I said 2. Okay. So 4 points are created. I click right click and I said okay. So this way I created all the slab. Now you will notice the numbers are S1, S1 twice and all that. Suppose I want to create number in a regular fashion. So I'll just go here and I'll say uh, uh, I'm going to go to slab data and say auto renumber from left to right or left to right from bottom to top. I am selecting left to right. So if you see, numbering are now in a sequential manner: S1, S2, S3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. So this has been done. Now what I'll do, as a file, and also whatever data you want to see, you can see. Suppose if I click here and I want to see the load direction. So I'm seeing the load direction. Next, suppose I said I want to see floor finish. Or suppose you want to change something. So, now, say for example, here instead of 1.5, I want to give the this one, say floor fin, say load of say 2. So I can, so here you can see all your data. Now I would like to, and I can change anything I like. Suppose I want to change thickness or other load to see the total load. It is there. Right? Here since I have changed the load, that's why it is 7.75. Now I say file and I save this file, and suppose I am creating one more directory. Say I said new folder, and I said video recording, and inside this I'm saving this as a typical. So I've given it here. Now after this creating the slab, you have to create the columns. So I say column data and select judge column. So what it will do, initially I'm giving size of 0.23 meter or say 9 inch. I said okay. Now this is just for marking the location of the column. Just now I'm not giving any actual size. So I said okay. Now if I want to create, it will keep on numbering. So I say create. Next it is creating C2, create, 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 skip, create. Now I need not create. Suppose I don't want at this junction. I want away. So I click on this and suppose I say distance is 1 meter. So it will create the column at 1 meter from this junction. Suppose I say skip this. Then I say create, create, skip, create, create. Then here this will be a leaf wall. So I will be creating shear wall. So I'm creating say create, 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 and create. So I have created all the columns. Right now, suppose I decide I change my mind. I want to transfer this from here to this point. So I right click here and I say drag and attach. And I say drag from this point. I can create to the nearest point and it will get attached here. So this column is selected. So just now I say column data unselect all. Now suppose say for the leaf wall you don't want to give this number. I want to give number like LF1, LF2, right, like that. So I just go here. I say property LF1 and I'm marking and say control C. Okay. So this column is marked. Then I say rename property and here I say LF2. Here I give name. See again I go to property and I said LF3 and this I'm naming as LF4. So again property I said LF4. I said okay. Then I say property LF5, LF5 and then again I go and give name as say LF6. Now see, if I try to give the same number, say LF5, then it will prevent me. It says this column already is there. So now each column number is to be individual. That you have to make sure. Okay. So here I'm giving LF6. Now what happen if I again say auto renumber? Then this LF1, LF2 would again be changing to say C12, C13, etc. So I don't want to rename this column. So what I'll do, I just go here and there is an option called select column. So I'll select this column. So now this column now are freeze. So this numbering will not be changed. Now again if I say, now see here if you see after C11, you are saying C15 because these columns are renumbered. So what I'll do, I'll say column data, auto renumber left to right. So now you see numbering is 11, 12 and 13. So this is the way you can mark column. Any point of time, suppose if I go here and say property, then I see the size, you need not change the size because it is only for local. And it tells me it is located at X10, Y 7.5. Alright. So this is done. Again, I'll go to say file and I say save. So it is saved in the same directory under the same name. Now I'll go to column data and I said unselect all. Now after marking the column, I'll be marking the beam. So what I'll do, I'll just go to beam data and say auto beam. So what it does initially, it will divide the columns in two parts, internal beam and external beam. So suppose for internal beam I am taking depth of 0.23 by zero point 0.3 and I click on loading. This is a must. So it tells me this is the sulfate, flow height is 3 meter and it is assuming same beam above. So wall height is 2.5 meter. Suppose I am taking thickness of 0.15 meter, that's about 6 inch. And suppose wall density I'm using lightweight blocks, I'm getting 12. And I'm taking plaster thickness as 24, 12 mm on both sides. So total load is 8.575. I said okay. Similarly for internal beam, external beam, suppose I'm taking height of zero point 0.9 and I click on this double arrow. So, and here also I'm taking lightweight blocks, say 12 meter. So these are my load due to sulfate, this is due to wall load and these are the plaster 12 mm and 18 mm outside. So total load is 12.231. I said okay, okay. So now if I go here and say show me the UDL, so it is showing me the UDL of 12.23 for external beam and for internal it is showing me 8.57. Now suppose for some reason you want to change the size of this beam. So I right click here and I say property. And suppose I'm taking the size of say zero point 0.6 or say zero point 0.4. And for loading, suppose I don't want any wall here. So I'll just deselect this two. So it will consider only sulfate. If I say okay, okay. So see here the UDL is 2.3. So this way you can change sizes of any beam and loading. Now I want to view say I want to see the size. So I can see the sizes of all the beams. Here we are set to 0.23.4. Or if I want to see the say span, so I can see the span of each beam. Or if I want to say wedge point load, okay, right now I am given any wedge or point load. Suppose if I want to give any point load or wedge load, okay, beside this load, I want to give some extra load. Suppose I say point load. So, and I click on this beam and I say property. Now, suppose I want to give load name, say P1 at a distance of say 2 meter and the load is suppose 10 kilonewton. So I said okay. And now, so it shows me the point load. Similarly, suppose you want to show some extra wedge load. Okay, see, program what it does, it transfer the slab load to beam and from secondary beam to main beam. But beside that, suppose there is some load, extra load. which is not part of slab or beam, then what I can do, just right click property, and I say there is a wedge load of say W1 at a distance of say 1 meter, length of load is 2 meter, and intensity is suppose 4 and end intensity is 4 or say 5, whatever way I want. So I said okay. So I can create give a extra weight load. Suppose I want, okay, I don't want this weight load. Then I'll right click here, property, and I'll just remove this W1. So this weight load will go away. Similarly, I can delete the point load. I said property, and this P1 I change it to blank. I said okay. Now once this is done, now you say run. Okay, execute. So what it does, it will show you how much load is coming from slab, from how much live load is there, slab load is dead load is there, what is the total load and total load from the beam. So this is the acting load, and this it shows you the reacting load, total reacting load, and it also show you how much is total slab area, total beam length, and difference between acting and reacting is zero. It means equilibrium. Sometimes you might see some small difference, point 0.1 or a percentage or so. This is because of okay mathematical error. For computer, 1 by 3 plus 1 by 3 plus 1 by 3 is not 1. It says 0.999. So that's why you might get some small error. Till about difference is about 1% or so, it should be okay. Okay, you can ignore it. Then I said, okay. So now I can go to each column and find out from where this beam has come. Now suppose if I go to beam and I say description, and now see what it does. Initially all the horizontal beams are numbered in a one sequence. So you can say B1, B2, B3, B4, B5, 6, and then vertical beams are numbered, vertical direction beam are numbered B50, and lastly all inclined beam is numbered, so that's why you are saying B29. Now suppose for some reason you want to change to B3, you can do that. Or I can say number say B2A. Now beam number can be same also. I can give B2 this also, I can give B2. There is no restriction. Restriction is only for the column. Each column number should be unique. Again, I say run, so I'm getting the load on each beam, each column. Now, suppose if I click on this, I said load analysis. So it tells me that from B2, the load coming is 47.567 kilonewton. From B2, say similarly, I see the load, and similarly from B5, B25, and this is the total load. So I can see from where the load is come. Similarly, if I want to see the load diagram, Acha, now suppose if I decide that I don't want this column, oh, okay, first we'll see how the loads are coming. Then I say right click and I say load analysis. So now it tells me on this beam, there are two loads from this slab, which are this and this. And there is one load coming from this slab, and there is a point load. And the value of point load is 8.57. Now suppose if I go here and say load analysis, so it tells me left reaction is 22.4 and 22.4. Okay, let me check again. I said load analysis. So this load which is coming is 22.04. Okay, so what it does, it transfer the load from this slab to this slab to this beam, and from this beam it transfer to the main beam, and from here transfer to columns. So this is the way I get the complete idea of the loading. Now suppose for some reason I don't want this column. So I go here and I say delete. I delete this column, and then uh, now this beam should be one beam only, not two beam, because this column is deleted. So what I'll do, I just go and say select beam. I'm selecting these two beam and I say right click and I say delete selection. All right. So it is deleting two beams. And now to recreate the beam. So instead of auto numbering, I just go here, click on beam and click on this and this. And then I give the sizing. Say this size is say our external size I'm giving zero point 0.9 and grade same and UDL I go here and again it will find out the total height of the load. These are the wall load and these are the plaster load. I said okay. Okay. Now if I say UDL, so I'll be able to see the UDL on each beam. Now column has been removed. So I want to renumber the column now because after C4 it is giving C5, C6, C6 and C7 is not there. So after C6 it taking C8. So I want to renumber the column. But now be careful. If I renumber, this also would be renumber. LF1 will be renumbered as some column number. So what I'll do, I want to freeze the column. So I said select column and I select this sixth column. Or perhaps there is something called select window. No, select window will select slab also. So just now what I'll do, I just go here. Sorry, yeah, and I'm selecting this column, LF, 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 and then I say column data auto renumber. So now what it does, after C6, C7 is done. Now again I'll work out the loading and then save it. It is important that if you do any changes, rerun and save the column. So this is the end of this video. In the next video, we'll see how to create more plans from the similar plans.